So when Butch Cassidy was just 13 years old, his father moved his family to the little town of Circleville, which back then was a pretty rough and rugged place. It had a lot of miners. It was on the border of Native American areas, and there was a lot of cattle rustling happening. Not only that, but Circleville had a lot of dramatic history. For example, it was in the area where the Black Hawk War happened. This was a war between Native Americans and Latter-day Saints, mainly Utes, but a lot of different Native American tribes banded together because the Latter-day Saints were encroaching on their lands, and hundreds of people died. Circleville was also the location of the Circleville Massacre, where some militia had some Paiute prisoners, and the militia panicked because they didn't know if these prisoners were going to attack, and they massacred all these Paiute peoples. These are all stories that I want to cover on this channel and dive deeper into. So if you like, subscribe, or share, you're going to be able to directly help me make these videos and share them with the world. So Butch grew up in a very harsh environment, but it wasn't just the people or the events, but it was also just living and settling in the wilderness. There's stories of how Butch's family lost all their cattle due to a random winter storm, or how they lost all their crops several times. There's stories of how when they first came to the area, they had to live in dugouts and how they lived in small cabins. There's one story how Butch's mother was on a wagon carrying a baby, and something happened and she was thrown out, and her face got peeled off by some of the wheel on the wagon. And the doctor said this was the worst thing he's ever seen. She survived, and they fixed her face as best they could, but she was permanently scarred from it. And by the way, the baby survived. That would have been Butch's brother. But this just shows just kind of how rough and rugged and wild it was out there in the West for this family. And this kind of brings us to our next topic about how Butch would have struggled to find excitement and meaning in this environment.